Appreciate everybody being here. I know it's a little different schedule this week, playing on Friday. A couple things over the weekend, a couple takeaways from where we're at. I sat down with our trainer yesterday, and we currently got 14 guys that can't practice. 4 of those are in the defensive line, which is a real critical position for us. We were thin there to start the year, and we got 40 linemen that are out for the season. We lost Jacob Ellis last week. We got Jackson Warren, our tight end, and Tanner Morley on offense, which are really key players. And then 3 of our 6 captains are out. And so for us as a coaching staff, we got to be realistic about where we're at as a roster right now. I thought this last game, for the first time, we had some defensive kids revert a little bit in the second half to some old habits, and that was discouraging. I wanted to see those guys continue to fight, and we got pushed around a little bit in the second half. And so we've got to be mindful of that, how we can handle the running game. We got a bunch of young guys playing, Andrew Lorich and Jack Moran, Keegan Shank, good young players, but they're young. Not the mature bodies that McKenday and those guys were. For the second game, we really didn't get any sacks or turnovers, and that's something that we've got to continue to work to do. Offensively, we ran the ball effectively. I thought Jackson Brousseau did a lot of good things in the game. He's throwing for 62%. Darius came in and did some good things, which I was happy to see. We're making some strides to be more efficient. I think one of the things we're doing is we're trying to make the offense reflect more what Jackson can do, and we're very mindful of putting some schemes in place that can help our receivers also have success. And so the things we're doing is reflecting the players that we have playing right now. Special teams did some good things, played well. I'm very, very pleased with our punter, as I've mentioned before. I think we've got a really good kicker in Isaiah Hankins. Walker Heinbach at long snapper, Lloyd Avon at kickoff return, and Dagan Myers as punt return. I think those core specialists really give us a chance to be good in special teams. And we improved in 3 areas that I really was looking for improvement. Number 1 was special teams. Number 2 was turnovers, which we had none. And 3 was penalties, which we had 1 in the game. We had 1 penalty in the game, and it was kind of a reflection of the last 3 games. We have a lot of new players playing on defense. We actually have quite a few new players playing on offense as well. And in the first half of the last 3 games, I just felt like we were a player or 2 from gaining some momentum, whether it was a penalty, a fumble, and that was the case again in this game. We had 1 penalty in the game. Lamondre was lined up offsides, and on that play, we ended up getting a tip, bat around, and we get a turnover. At that point of the game, it was a 1-score game. It could have really flipped the momentum in the first half, and we haven't gotten that in the last 3 games. And so just trying to get some spark with this group. The biggest thing that we've tried to do is limit what we're doing, play with great effort, and play without making mistakes. And if we feel like we do that, we can continue to get better. But from a roster perspective, we got to be realistic where we are. Right now, when I look at our roster, we only have 2 starters that were starters last year that are playing for us. And that's Aaron Karras and Armani Winfield. The rest of the starters on offense are all new. We don't have any returning starters on defense. We don't have any returning starters on special teams. So we still have a lot of kids that need to be brought up to speed. As excited as I was about this roster a month ago, we're a little bit different now than we were a month ago. Really excited. We've had 2 good days of practice. Played Fresno State this Friday night. They're doing a good job. They've won their last 5 straight. Played some really close games. Played 3 really close games against Oregon State and Hawaii and Nevada. Matt Enns is their coach, has done a really good job, came from North Dakota State, done a good job with those guys. Offensively, they're led by E.J. Warner, Kurt Warner's son, good solid quarterback, big physical offensive line, 2 good running backs, and that's going to pose a challenge for us. We got to do a great job of managing their run game and slowing them down offensively. Defensively, they're a typical Fresno State defense. Physical, athletic, play primarily 4 down, and they've done a good job the last couple of weeks keeping themselves into games, and we're going to have to do a good job continuing to push our execution that way. I'm encouraged by that. The bottom line, I talked to a good friend of mine yesterday from the Colts, Chris Ballard, and he just said, when things aren't going good, the key is emphasize on great effort and eliminate mistakes, and that's what we're doing as a program and as a team, and want to continue to push our guys so we see improvement every time we walk on the field.
You did mention you're without 3 captains. Have you seen other guys, though, fill in that void where they're not, especially when you're on the field?
Yeah, I really do. I think, we had a lot of guys that were recommended as captains, and, I see guys like Jackson Brousseau stepping up. I see guys like Jalen Dupree. I see guys like Aaron Karras are doing a fabulous job, and I really got to give it to Owen Long. Owen Long is a kid who I felt like was probably the most natural leader on our team. And he's very young, but he has all the qualities that we're looking for. It's the dynamics of rosters now and how your team gets built. It's very different, and it's very different to predict. We have 21 seniors, and 14 of the 21 seniors just got here. So they really haven't been in our program for very long. They don't have deep roots in our program of training, and so it's just very different than we have. Actually, a guy like Jalen Dupree and Owen Long have been here longer than our seniors have, and they've only been here a year and a half. And so it's just very different. I just think we have to be realistic in what we're actually playing with and what we have. And we're different than we were a month ago. And I think we could be more different if we had a little good fortune in a couple of these games, and especially in the first half. We continue to sustain a drive, we score, we make a big play. I think maybe we have some confidence and we're sitting in a different spot right now, but that's not the case. And so we got to continue to push our guys and strive. The leaders of our team are our younger players. The Owen Longs, the Jalen Duprees, the Jackson Brousseaus, those are our leaders on our team. Those are our playmakers, and we got to continue to build on them.
The flip side of the injuries, you talked about how they affect you obviously with offense and defense. But naturally, a lot of those guys play special teams. Have you had to adjust on special teams due to the injuries? And it seems like you're pretty happy with the way that those adjustments have been.
Well, that experience is on teams too, and probably even more so because all the specialists are new guys. And then the majority of the soldiers, the guys that cover kicks, the guys that return kicks, all that are new guys. So, and it's not that they're not good players. I'm not saying that. It's just that we're new and we're gaining that experience and continuity that we need to play together as units.
You said in San Diego after the game, need to evaluate what success looks like for where your roster's at. I guess, how do you view that? What do you view as success?
I think we got to improve and play better every time we walk on the field. And I think we are. I think we made a lot of strides last week. I really challenged the team to do a great job in the turnover area. And we have the last 2 weeks on offense. We haven't turned the ball over. Penalties was the other area I wanted them to really show improvement. We only had 1 penalty. We did that. and special teams. Those are areas that we improved. Where I think we struggled was the physicality of the game, holding up, and especially in the run game. I thought as the game went along, I think we struggled defensively to hold up to that physicality, and we got to find ways to do that with the guys that we got playing right now. And that's, we got some young guys that are battling, that are playing hard, they're playing with technique, and we've got to kind of be creative in how we can work to stop the run right now. So that's going to be a big part going forward.
Yeah, I was going to say, with that D-line injuries and stuff, do you have to get creative schematically almost to cover it? Yeah, the margin for error is not big. And, it just forces, as a coach, it forces you to have to be right on every call, And it's challenging, but it is what it is. And so, we'll continue to probe and put the right schemes on the field to help our guys execute.
You guys have gotten a lot of pressure from the secondary this year, maybe less so from the front seven. Injuries are probably part of that. What have you seen from Donut this year? Yeah,
Donut is a good player. I think Donut's frustrated. Donut is a guy that I know Tyson has a lot of confidence in because he's familiar with him and Donut's familiar with the system. Donut has kind of been a guy that we've moved around a lot to try to fill holes and voids in our personnel. And because he is so versatile, he can play outside backer, he can play inside, he can be a pass rusher, he can do a lot of things. So we've been kind of using him wherever we need him to move around. And so, Donut is frustrated. I know he feels like he can make probably more of an impact. We really need disruption. We need sacks on quarterback. We need turnovers. Because, we don't have a whole ton of explosive playmakers. We got a lot of good football players, but we got to make up for that for getting a turnover, getting a punt return, getting a sack, and we haven't been able to generate much pass rush. So that's something that we got to keep working to try to do.
You talked a little bit about the fact, with Jackson now quarterback, you've got to adjust to what he does best. Mm-hmm. And then, talking to Armani yesterday, he said he felt like there's a rhythm right there around the corner. Is that part of it? Is you can get that rhythm once you guys figure out exactly
I think we just keep fighting for execution, and I think with great effort and practice and attention to detail, we'll gain that. We'll continue to get better. We had a ton of long drives last week. We just got to continue to eliminate the mistake and convert on third down, make sure we finish those drives. And I think we're playing with more execution. We're playing with more precision in the passing game. And so we'll just continue to build on that.
Injuries are obviously always really challenging. Is there anybody that's rising up that's maybe surprised you that's come out of this?
We have a lot of guys that have to do that. We have, I think our O-line is a good example of that, and I feel confident about our O-line. I feel good about our O-line, and I didn't feel like we would have much of a drop-off after last year. But the reality is Karras is the only returning starter that's playing right now, and those other guys are still working to play at the same level that our guys played at last year. You got a new center in Ator. He's never played center before. But I really like him at that position. I think he's going to be really good, but he's still not quite there yet. We got a new right guard who's a transfer and a senior. Alex has moved in at left guard for Tanner. So that's an area I think Christian Martin is going to be a big-time player, and he's just not at the same experience as Savion was last year. So it's just little things like that that we like our guys. We think they're going to be plenty good, but at the same time, there's a reality that we're not as experienced as we were a year ago.
Yeah, after Friday's game, you mentioned wanting to take a step back to look at things. What does that process look like for you?
Well, I think we've done it. I think we're realizing the kids that we have. I think we're trying to do the things that will allow them to have success, and we're going to continue to simplify so they can be confident. those are things that come, incrementally, and we should continue to improve and get better. The other part of it is this time of year. Everybody in college football made smaller rosters last year, so I think we're at 108. But you take 14 guys off of that. Now, you're practicing with a smaller roster of players, and that affects how you practice as well. So we have to be mindful of how not wearing our guys out, so we can get the execution we need in practice. So that's all part of what everybody's going through.
Coach, following up on that, is this kind of the new normal in college football a little bit with some of the roster turnover?
Yeah, I think it's been a moving target the last 4 years. We've all been adjusting to the changes in college football, and so yeah, it is the new normal. And just like the transfer kids that you get, and that's part of the new reality of what you deal with, and 14 to 21 seniors being brand new guys that have only been here a few months, it's just different. They're not the old timers. Actually, some of our younger guys have been around a lot longer. So that's part of what we deal with, and we've really worked really hard to bridge the gap on that. We spent the last several months just getting this team to get to know each other, and we like our team. We like our players. We like the talent that we have. We get a break here or there. Maybe we're sitting in a little bit different place right now, but that's not the case. And so we got to deal with where we're at and what we're doing and the reality of that, and make the corrections and move forward.
I know some of the focus on the passing game is always on the quarterback, but what role do your receivers need to play to help pick up the production there?
They got to compete. There's no easy answers. You got to compete, and you got to focus on improving. That's it. There's no magic pill to playing better. And it goes back to what I mentioned. I talked to Chris about yesterday. We've all been in football a long time. We've been through tough stretches, and there's no magic to getting out of a tough stretch. It's just effort and not making mistakes. And then when you focus on that, things start to get better and improve, and that's what we have to do. And I think we're starting to see incremental improvement of that. The players on our team are not going to change right now, and so we got to get these guys better and get them to play together, and that's how we'll win.
You talk about new guys stepping up. How do you think Rocky Beers has stepped up in the midst of Jackson Warren being
I think he's been fantastic. Rocky's one of the guys I'm really proud of because he's had a lot of responsibility because Jackson got hurt. Jackson's a guy, for the last 2 years we've had high regard for him. And part of this too is some of these skill guys that we bring in, we got to hit on them. If we don't hit on them, it really is hard to overcome as a team. And Jackson Warrens is one of those guys. We really felt like he would make an impact on our ability to throw the ball, and he was in the first week, and then now he hasn't been available since then. And so, but I think Rocky's done a fantastic job and coming in, and he hasn't been 100%. And that's the other thing. When you get kids that transfer in, they haven't been here for multiple years. To get guys to come in and buy in and be unselfish and play unhurt or play through injury like Rocky's done, that's pretty impressive. And so I'm pretty proud of Rocky and his contribution this fall.
You often see upperclassmen deal with adversity. How do you see the new guys coming in and seeing this adversity for the first time and how they're dealing with it?
I think that's a big challenge in college football. You have a whole bunch of new people that haven't been here for 4 years, and you always are concerned about how they're going to handle adversity. And so I think our guys, on the most part, have been pretty good. I think we have a bunch of guys in that locker room that care about each other. I think we got a bunch of guys in that locker room that are not finger pointers, and that are continuing to work with real attitude. And that's what gives me confidence that we're going to improve and get better. And that's the way we've always been as a staff. Our job is to get them better. as coaches. That's our job. And so, you know, we gotta really dial in and practice. We gotta push these guys with their effort and their focus, and we gotta demand that they do things properly. That's so important that they do things the right way, because at the end of the day, on game night, on Friday night, they're gonna play the way they practiced. And so we're continuing to push that envelope.
Do you expect Jackson back at any point?
Warren?
Yes, sir.
Not sure yet. Really not sure. We got several guys that, you know, we're hopeful that there's an opportunity for them to come back, but at this point, I don't have an answer for that.
Thanks.
Thanks.